run away with me. Lost souls in revelry, running wild and running free. Just two kids, you and me. And I say, hey, 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 living like we're renegades. Hey, 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 living like we're renegades. Renegades. Long live the pioneers, rebels and mutineers. Go forth and have no fear. Come close and lend an ear. And I say, hey, 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 living like we're renegades.
Welcome, renegades, rebels, and outlaws, to the Chong Show with Foxyheals, Episode 7. Here today, we'll be talking about our thoughts on Legion. We'll be going through some of the upcoming events, talking about the 2016 fall season of SNF, and the upcoming World PvP campaign. So we have a lot to talk about since our last episode. And of course, I am joined, as always, by my wonderful guest, my buddy, my pal, my partner here for the Chong Show, the with Foxyheals part here. Foxy, how are you doing for this episode?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, as always. Let's get right to it here on Revolution Radio. We'll give our thoughts on Legion so far. We have played through Legion. I have gotten Javar to 110. I've gotten Shenush to 110. And I'm working on a few other characters as well. Obviously, I'm only going to be focusing on one or two with the artifacts and everything else, all the grinding. But I'll have the other ones at 110 for events and whatnot. We'll go ahead and start with our review overall for Legion. Again, so far, with the questing, with the lore, with the story, and we'll be going off of a 1 to 10 rating, comparing it to Warlords, Wrath, Burning Crusade, whatever. And Foxy, we'll go ahead and start with your rating. How would you rate the story, the questing, the leveling experience?
I'm gonna give it a 7. Storyline is great. The questing is awesome. The zones are awesome. Not really too happy with what they've done with casters. It just kind of feels very, very slow and monotonous and tiring. But I've done some stuff on Blood Fox and Cromchuck and stuff like that, and it seems to get better with melee. So I'm looking forward to that. And it might go up in time, once we get into dungeons and some of the other things that we have planned for the guild. But right now it's a 7 just because they messed up casters. That's the only reason.
I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. And I am not generous with my ratings usually. It's a big step in the right direction, I feel. And just off the initial experience that I've had so far with the questing, with the gearing, with everything else, 9.5 out of 10. And the only thing that keeps it from being a perfect 10 out of 10 for me is the PvP. The system so far, from what I've seen, the prestige and the talents I love, but the gearing itself is just so abysmal. And the fact that they haven't, and I'm sure they will in a future patch, they haven't attuned the talents to World PvP and to dueling. I think that is such a big negative, a big mark against the new PvP system. So that knocks it down to 9.5. Questing, I love High Mountain, I love Stormheim, I love the story, the immersion, the beauty of the zones, and I think they captured a vial of nostalgia from each expansion. If you go to Valshara, you get some nostalgia from Hyjal and Ashenvale from the good old vanilla days. If you go to Stormheim, you get from Howling Fjord. Northrend, it has a very Wrath of Lich King vibe to it. High Mountain, I mean, you name it, the nostalgia, everything. 9.5 out of 10 for me. Really not a lot of negatives that I can name off here. Negatives and positives for the expansion. What would you say the strongest positive is, and then the strongest negative for you so far, Chuck?
Strongest positive would probably be being able to just group up with a group of guildies, no matter what the level is, and run around and do quests and stuff like that. That's probably the biggest positive for me.
I cannot rave enough about that. That's another big positive for me. The leveling this expansion has been just unbelievable. The fact that you can scale and you can jump around, and if you're tired of one zone, you can go to another. It's been so boring the last couple expansions being stuck in a linear quest chain you got to go through, and oh, I can't go to this zone yet, or I can't go to this zone. And with Legion, you don't have to worry about that. And as Foxy said, group up with your guildies, go in, and they don't even have to catch up. They can just jump right in there with you. All right, brace yourselves. Foxy's going to lay down the negative now.
Like I said earlier, in the ratings part is the what they've done with casters. I don't know why it bugs me so much. It bugs the hell out of me. That honestly, that's probably my only negative so far.
All right, my positives for Legion would be the questing, the scaling, the fact that it scales up to your level no matter where you are, and the lore and the storylines. I think that is another bonus, and also the artifact design, the artifact quest line, the class halls. Those three are my biggest positives. And my biggest negative, as I said earlier, PvP system. That's pretty much it. Just the gearing. I think they're going to have to do something to change that up, because right now PvPers are pretty far behind PvEers on the gearing front. So moving on here, we have new and revised events coming. We have Guild World Quest runs, and that will be us getting together and completing the best world quests across the Broken Isles as a guild. And Dungeon Night will be moving to Friday night at 6 p.m. server, just like it was back in Miss of Pandaria. So Foxy will remember this. We used to get together and we'd go run Timeless Isle, and then we'd do dungeons. It's going to be just like that all over again. Friday nights will be dungeon night. We'll get it knocked out, have some fun with it. Everybody will get some gear, and then World Quest will likely be either on the same night or later in the weekend. And then up next, this is the biggest spanning event across the fall, is the 2016 Autumn SNF season. Hasn't been done since 2012. It has been a long time since we've had two SNF seasons in the same year, but it is back, and it is going to be one hell of a ride.
I think this year or this season is going to be the summer or the season of Big Dad. Honestly, it's his time. He's just been waiting, kind of in the shadows for his chance, and I think this is going to be his shining moment where he's just going to come out of the shadows and, for lack of a better word, he's going to stomp a mud hole in everybody, shock the guild. So that's my prediction.
My predictions for the new season, I think, the names that were dominant last season will continue to be dominant. I think you're going to see the heavyweights, Javar, Bruiser, still there at the top. And then Blood Fox, I think, is going to be another big name. Obviously, a lot of hype around Blood Fox being the successor to Foxyheals, the 9-time champion, coming in. I think we're going to see a lot of tanks. It'll be very tank heavy this season. The 2016 fall season began on September 25th, 2016, the Sunday after AFC 5. Aftermath trail of the 8-year anniversary for the guild. So moving on here, we advance to the discussion on the upcoming World PvP campaigns. We have two new World PvP campaigns lined up for 2017. We have Beyond the Dark Portal and Shadows of Lordaeron. Beyond the Dark Portal will feature official objective-based World PvP objectives that have been placed across the landscape by Blizzard. Capture the base, capture the flag, and all across Outland, General Foxyheals will lead the Ash Tongue Outlaws against Warlord Zeptuk's Shadow Council, and that will begin in January 2017. Brand new World PvP campaign, finally going to be able to use those World PvP areas in Outland. 2 new short stories will be on the way for this one to give lore and some background to this campaign, and that will be Shadows of the Horde, which will be out this fall, and then Phantom of Outland, which will be out January 2017.
I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be interesting to get into, and should be a blast. I'm looking forward to it.
And then starting with the Monster Fest this year, Monster Fest Plagueland, Shadows of Lordaeron will feature World PvP battles across the Plaguelands, starting with Monster Fest, as I said. The defending 2015 Monster Fest champion Amelia up against me playing as Euron, the Outlaw Rogue. Gilneas will be another location, Hillsbrad Foothills, Arathi Highlands. The biggest key headlining factors for this World PvP campaign, very excited for this. We will have sprawling battles across Stromgarde, finally going to be used, and Lordaeron City itself. So this gives us a chance with the new World PvP campaign system that really debuted this year. This gives us a chance to go back, revisit some of these locations, and have the objective-based World PvP with the narrative behind it. So Officer Amelia leading the Gilnean resistance against Euron and the Dread Army of the Forsaken. That will be spanning across Lordaeron all throughout 2017. And that brings us to our big announcement here. Reports are coming in that World of Warcraft is supposedly back up to Cataclysm subnumbers. So that's 10 million plus. And I know we talked back on episode 1 or episode 3, one of the two. We talked about our predictions for Legion. And I said it could, with Illidan on the front cover, get back up to 12 million, those Wrath Lich King numbers. So my prediction, I am right 99.5% of the time. My prediction is slowly but surely coming true here. And we will see in a couple months, a few months, a year or so from now, where the numbers are at.
Just keep in mind, it's only been out for, what, 2 weeks now? So part of all these numbers is people just being interested and wanting to come back and see how shit's going. So a couple of months from now, it could be back down to Warlords.
The thing about that is Warlords Warlords had a lot of missteps, and they made a lot of mistakes to get down to Warlords numbers. So I think Legion has everything in place to retain a heck of a lot more players. So we'll see. I think it'll stay at the least around 8 million, and I think it has the potential to continue to climb. So we will see. Moving on to AFC 5 predictions. Now, I told Foxy, usually we do these AFC predictions, and by the time we get the episode out, the event's already over. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that was cool. We see who's right and who's wrong. So I figured, hey, let's do it. So we'll start with the opener, Kromchuk versus Doc Stew, Protection Warrior versus Discipline Priest. I'm going to have to give this one to Doc Stew. I think that with the rolls, it's flip of a coin. But I think via the rolls, Doc Stew will be able to hold on and he'll get the win. Moving on, we have E-Mike versus Berman. E-Mike, the infamous ganker from Miss of Pandaria. This is a grudge match. E-Mike versus Berman. Really is. A lot of history between these two server wide. E-Mike's one hell of a player, and I think in the end E-Mike is going to get the win. And then we have Bruiser versus Urim. This is where we start to go a bit more in depth. Bruiser and Urim. There has been a lot of smack talk from Bruiser's end towards Urim leading up to this fight. Two of the best Death Knights on the server, on top of Ice Crown. Really can't get any better than this. Foxy, who do you think's going to come out on top, Bruiser or Urim?
You know, I seen Urim in Dollarand sewers the other day, and it was nice to put a face to the name finally. I'm gonna go with Bruiser on this one. I gotta back a guilty.
War Game 6, Urim cut a swath through Alliance Revolution. Cathaltus, Big Dad, Bruiser, all of them were there. And pretty much by himself, we had a couple pugs, no names, that were there as well. And Urim was the MVP for War Game 6. I think it's going to be an upset either way. I'm going to go with Urim. I think Urim is going to come in there. I think Bruiser is underestimating him big time. And I think Bruiser's just going to go in there. He's going to rush down. He's going to think that it's an easy win. He has it. Yada, yada, this and that. They're both equal on gear. And I think Urim's just going to lay him out with a couple crits. And that's going to be the end of it. It's going to be a shocker. It is going to be a stunner for Bruiser. But it's going to be 1v1. And that's the key. War Games, it was team. This is 1v1. So just going off the War Games, Urim in his debut up against Bruiser. It is going to be a fight. It is going to be back and forth. This is undoubtedly going to be the toughest challenge for Bruiser yet. And if Bruiser wins, I will happily admit that I was wrong, and I will guarantee you that he is in line for a title opportunity.
If Bruiser wins, his head's gonna get so big we're gonna need to start a second guild.
Yeah, if Bruiser wins, there's going to be no shutting him up. And I'll tell you what, he is good. This is going to be one hell of a challenge for him. Moving on to the next fight here on the card, we have Chong versus Cathaltus. One final time. We had Cath on back in January and February, and he said, damn it, every time I got close to the championship, Chong was there. And I always was sure to slap him down, whether it was on top of Utgard, or whether it was at Tolvir Arena, where I'm still undefeated to this day. Now Cathaltus, Chong, they're 110. The classes have been radically changed. And for the first time in 2 years, the rivalry will continue and the rivalry will conclude on top of Ice Crown Citadel. Brewmaster versus Retribution Paladin. Cathaltus will undoubtedly have the edge gear-wise. Keep in mind, Chong, yours truly, back in 2014, when PvE gear was just as it is now, it had the advantage. PvEers were going around one-shotting those people in PvP gear, and I think we were all PvE gear. Chong stood toe-to-toe with Siwas, who had I kid you not, a 60 item level advantage. He was rating Mythic, and he stood toe-to-toe with Siwas. So that's just some backstory for those of you who do not know Chong's prowess as a tank. The first tank champion, the record for the longest deathmatch finale against Doc Stew. This is undoubtedly the greatest tank fighter in SNF history. Even with the gear advantage that Cath has, this is still going to be a challenge for the Canadian Crusader. We'll see if he can exercise his demons on September 24th. Foxy, take it away. Your prediction.
I know that how this fight's gonna come out. I'm gonna go with Cath, just in the hopes that he gets back on a winning streak. Good stuff start happening for him. So I'm gonna go with Cath on this one.
Now looking here against, of course, his longtime rival. What an opportunity for him to not only exercise the demons, as I said, but also to end the losing streak and get back on track. Huge fight for Kath.
And I think it'd be a good step in the right direction going into SNF season and going into Legion. I think that'd give him a good step in the right direction. So I'm like I said, 100% behind Kath on this one.
And Kath has been gearing like a madman. I mean, he has been training his ass off, and I think that loss to McGregor, after all the smack talk, the main event of AFC 4, it was just heartbreaking for him. I think he was really determined to get the win there. He didn't get the win. He lost, and I think he is determined more than ever to come and get this win at AFC 5. And as Foxy said, start Legion off right. Moving on here, we have the Guardian of Cenarius, Big Dad, the former world champion, up against the world champion that he defeated for the title, Shanush, coming out of retirement to settle the score here or tie up the series, either way you want to look at it. Shanush versus Big Dad, the last time they faced off, AFC 2 on top of Black Rock Mountain, one of the most memorable series and main events we have ever had. Big Dad, more aggressive than we've ever seen him before, and now they will face each other at 110, and this time on top of Utgard Pinnacle. Utgard Keep, the crown jewel of Howling Fjord. Foxyheals, how do you see this one going down here? Shanush versus Big Dad 2.
I think it's going to go almost exactly like it went last time. I think Big Dad's going to bounce around, hit Chanoosh with some moonfire, bounce around some more, wear him down until either the rolls show up or Chanoosh falls over crying. One of those two.
I disagree. I think this one's going to be a hell of a lot different than the last time. And that remains to be seen. But September 24th, Shanush and Big Dad will face off for a second time. And historically, the very place that they met for the first time. It was way back in 2010. I said, hey, Big, come on and meet me. I was playing as Shanush. We met on top of Utgard, and then I turned around and blasted him and killed him. That was our first World PvP meeting, 1v1 on top of Utgard. So, very first place of our first meeting. We're going to meet again. It'll be a break from Ice Crown. We'll go over to Utgard, and we will see Shanush and Big Dad face off to continue their storied rivalry. And then finally, we get to the championship main events of the evening. We have the defending, reigning, undisputed world champion, Javar, the cerebral assassin, the Draenei warlord, High Lord of the Silver Hand, up against Amelia, who has climbed and scratched and clawed from the bottom of the rankings all the way to a number one contender spot. Amelia beat Sprite, beat Cathaldus, beat Secret Lady in some of the most thrilling, unbelievably high octane fights we have seen in AFC or SNF history. Now Amelia stands on the precipice of a first world championship, and what a stage to win it on top of Ice Crown against longtime rival Javar. Tied up 1-1 in the series overall. Who do you see standing as the world champion when the night is through?
This one, for me, is a toss-up. I'm going to go with Javar just because he always seems to come out on top no matter what you do to him. I have yet to find a way to get around some of the tricks that he pulls. So, yeah, I'm just going to go with Javar on this one because I know he's going to pull something out of his sleeve, mess up M's plans.
And that is why Javar is known as the Cerebral Assassin. And then finally, the World Championship, the successor to that fight, Smokey the Bear, for the first time ever, defending the 2016 SNF season championship, the traditional season. The first time we've seen the season championship defended at AFC, the trilogy fight against Foxyheals. And what will potentially be Foxyheals' last fight, it's being billed as championship versus career. This is a second chance for Foxyheals to ride off into the sunset as a 10-time champion. And it doesn't get any better than that for a send-off. Difference this time, Smokey going to be going feral. It doesn't get any better than this. And the fact that Smokey is going DPS and Foxy is playing the new disc, this one is not going to be a back and forth war of attrition between two healers. It's going to be a war of attrition of a whole different kind. It is going to be a shootout. It is going to be a strike fest between these two with everything on the line, and that is why it is the main event for AFC 5. I see this one going down in a unbelievable walk-off performance from Foxyheals. Foxy, how are you feeling heading into that fight with the new disc?
Disc is probably the strongest of the three. Shadow is very, very bursty, very RNG bursty. Disc has a more consistent DPS. The self heals are very, very strong. Going into it, I'm feeling pretty confident. I still need to get some work done on it. I still need to try the different specs out, try some different talents out, see how they work out.
So, that does it. We had a lot to go through. We covered it all. World PvP campaigns, the SNF season, and of course World Quests and Dungeon Night as well. So a lot on the horizon. So much to do. It's going to be a fantastic expansion. And I just can't wait. It's going to be a blast, all of it. So I'm happy to have everyone, all of our listeners, everyone in the guild, so many people. We had 70 people online the other night. We are at cap member-wise. We're at 1,000 members. It's going to be a fantastic ride here over the next 2 years as we head towards the next expansion. As long as Blizzard doesn't screw it up again, possibly the best expansion since Wrath. Going to say that right now, if it keeps the momentum that it has now. That'll do it for episode 7. Any last words on any of the subjects that we covered here today, partner?
I agree with you. As long as they don't make too many major changes, I think it's going to be a really good expansion. And I'm looking forward to all the World PvP events. I'm looking forward to seeing all the up and newcomers come out to SNF.
And on the next episode, episode 8, we will be speaking about patch 7.1, the return to Karazhan. We'll be previewing AFC 6, giving our thoughts on the outcome from AFC 5. And down the road, we have interviews lined up with the Guardian of Cenarius, General Big Dad, long-awaited interview there, and Officer Glenn Moreau. 2 fantastic interviews, I think, coming up here in the next few episodes or so.
7.1, that's the release of the raids, correct?
I think it's a long dungeon, and then they also have a
Okay.
Stormheim raid.
Okay.
So it's Karazhan dungeon and then Stormheim raid, and then a bunch of other stuff too, a bunch of new quests and whatnot. So we will be discussing that on the next episode. Thank you all for listening to the Chong Show with Foxyheals, episode 7.
Thanks for listening, everybody.